Magic is a relatively new band that has released just 2 albums. This album, Furyborn, is the second album that is released by this band that came out probably just last week, I believe. Obviously, going into this album, I kind of need to know a bit about where they came from to see how they've developed and what they've really kind of grown from. So I have looked into the first album by this band, and I didn't really give it a full-on listen. All I've basically done with that first album was basically just go track by track, do a few skips and everything, just fast forward through it, just see what the general gist of that album was. And it was pretty typical of a certain style of music. It's a female-fronted band, so what you get is starts the songs, you get some kind of opera singing style stuff. When you get to the verse, it's the typical thing of everything cuts out and all you're left with is drums, bass, and then the female vocals until you hit a chorus. And that's kind of how it plays out. It is really typical of a lot of female-fronted bands where the verse will just cut out completely with electric guitar and everything, and you just get drum, bass, and then some kind of singing thing. Nothing against opera singing, it's just the fact that it's such a trope that it is so easily known. So it's so predictable basically, it's dull, there's nothing exciting or shocking about it, it's just, this is just the same thing that has been in other bands, and it kind of constantly flows through that album because that is the style they constantly stick with. The vocals were quite operatic as well. So with this album, I heard a single, I believe it actually was the track Like Never Before. And this was before I even heard the first album. It's how I found the band. It was the track Like Never Before, and it did grab my attention. There was some good musical elements to it. So obviously you had the whole band and everything. They don't really do any kind of intense intros. Their songs aren't overly intense and technically laid out or anything. It's just the whole band plays, but underneath it they have that kind of sci-fi tone with kind of like keys and things, which I kind of like. It definitely gives a kind of life and essence to the overall sound, so I really like that. The vocalist actually this time has a lot more of an aggression and cutting edge to her delivery. Instead of it being operatic and, you know, bright and everything, it's definitely a lot more kind of piercing, sharper, cutting edge, and a lot more direct. So the power and you know, beauty she puts in, and it's very versatile in this album compared to the first one, which is just operatic. This you can use a lot of aggression, some melodic stuff kind of in the middle area, so she keeps kind of jumping between different types of you know, pitches and things, and techniques and styles. So I kind of liked it. There was a solo in the song, it was quite short, so yeah, that was basically the first song I kind of had a gist of. It had a vibe to it with that kind of key thing that was in the background. It had great vocals, and then they did have a guitarist that did a lead solo, even though it was kind of good, even though short. It's just a one track, so you never know what the rest of the album is going to be like. They released about 2 other singles, maybe 3, and with that, they had a special guest in one, which is the guy from Evergrey. Quite whiny, so this is the actual title track, Furyborn, which he's featured in, so the singer Tom England of Evergrey. He kind of starts the singing of that song, and I don't really like Tom England. I think he has a really whiny voice. He always sounds like he's going to cry his eyes out. And the thing is, when Katarina, so the actual vocalist, comes in after it, she sounds like she has bigger balls than Tom England, because he's there like, Empire of my soul, and it sounds like he's, you know, gonna cry his eyes out, and then she comes in and it's just so brutal, her entrance, because she's just so much more on the attack, and the guitar and band actually back up her aggression. And then the duet together, she still sounds like she has more balls than he does. She's my final breath, you know, being an absolute puff. And she's there actually sounding like she could beat the crap out of him. So I don't really like him. I think he's really whiny, and she has way bigger balls than he does and everything. So in comparison, it definitely makes me appreciate her voice a lot more by how fierce and aggressive she can be with it, and how much power she has, because I can see how terribly crybaby this other guy is in comparison to her. So I kind of liked that, but other than that, there wasn't anything really special. So the songs aren't anything technical. If you look at the albums of Iron Maiden, Avenged Sevenfold, Dark Water, Borealis, Solaris for certain aspects, even though Solaris are a bit more of a straightforward kind of cutting edge band, they do have their technical side to them. But all them bands I've just mentioned, they have so much layering to their stuff, so many different vibes, different kind of stories that lyrically they tell, and then the music actually kind of represents the kind of sound and lyrical content it goes for. As for with Chaos Magic, with this album, it's all straightforward. You don't get anything in the way of like a different verse, a different chorus, and something after the second chorus, bridges and things like that. You don't get any long solos, they are all incredibly short. He comes in, sounds great, lasts about 3 seconds and he's out. It's really weird that he does that when he seems to be an actually gifted guitarist, but seems to be terrified about showing it. So I would say to the guitarist, like, you are good, and if you are a bit shy or something, or think you should focus more on the music, no, that's the wrong impression. No need to be shy, you are really good, and you could do longer solos, you have the talent, and if you think it needs to be more about the overall band, no, a solo's your aspect, the rest of the song is going to remain. You've basically just extended a certain part. You're not going into any other timing of the song, it'll still be there unless you overwrite it, but just don't, just, you know, put your solo in there. It's just kind of thick for you to think that way if that's the case. So they've also shown a live performance before this album dropped, which I actually watched, and let me say this, they shouldn't have done that, because I saw some things that has definitely painted a very, very bleak picture of the band. So you're going to obviously want to know what this is. What did I see in this performance, seeing that this will intrigue you. When I listen to music alone, I focus on vocals and guitars. I don't exactly focus on drumming nor bass. I don't really have an interest in them. If a drum is doing some really interesting stuff, then obviously I'll take an interest. If the bass actually comes to the forefront and shows me something interesting, I'll take an interest. But that's usually not the case with a few things. Usually it's always led by vocals and guitar. But because there was a live performance, I could actually see each member and see what they're doing. And I noticed with old songs and even doing songs from their previous catalogue, the drummer is always doing the exact same thing every single time. The verse, he is hitting the exact same drums. The chorus, the exact same drums. The only things he does different is basically the tempo of it. So one beat may be faster, one beat may be slower, therefore he's hitting the same drums but at a slower pace or a quicker pace, and if you think, well, therefore it's different, no, it's the same drums. It's basically just dun 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 to dun dun dun. No real talent to basically just slow it down a touch, when it's the exact same. There's no talent there, basically. So it's just tempo, just slowing it down or increasing the speed. Other than that, it's the exact same thing. Every verse is the same verse, drum beat wise, and even the chorus, they're all the same. The only difference is tempo and speed, and then flourishes, basically. You know, just a dun 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 type of flourish. But even they're sort of repetitive as well, which then shows that the beats and the drumming is all the same from every single song. I was keeping my eye on him because I was so shocked that I wanted to spot if there was anything different. And then he went to a previous album So a completely different album, and he's still doing the exact same thing. He is an incredibly awful drummer. So if you don't really listen to the drums and everything, I urge you to actually listen to them. Obviously, the tempo will kind of make it sound a little different because there'll be a bit more of a faster beat to it or a slower beat. But just focus on what the sound is and how it's played. It is all played exactly the same, just at different speeds. That is it. Chorus and riff. And then the only difference is the flourishes, but even flourishes, he sort of stays in the similar areas. He's woeful, absolutely crap of a drummer. As for all the synths that go on in this album, well, live again, the drummer turns to his, what side did he turn? He turns to his left, and then he presses a button on the laptop next to him that then starts the overall track of all the stuff. I hate this. So it's all computer based. They've gone into a computer program and they're just playing a whole computer program, which is what I enjoyed about this album from the first. They didn't have these synth key noises. That's why I like this album more, because it gives it life, it gives it a really interesting vibe to it. But it's all computer, it's not organic, which you start to kind of notice the more songs you actually went through. I didn't notice this before I even saw the live performance, that nothing felt organic from that side. It would have something, but it would be quite straightforward, and then it would stop in certain areas. But that would mean that the band member is actually not doing anything, he's just stood there waiting. Or there's parts where there's just nothing. So it's like, it's very basic, and then they keep stripping it out and throwing it in, so it's not organic. If you want to have this in, I would actually go about getting someone who can play the, do the synths and do the keys and everything. So then you can actually have cool flourishes with this sort of tone and everything, and have it a lot more organic. It is going to come across so much better than a computer doing it. So the sim stuff and key stuff is an improvement. It is, and I would urge them to keep it. But I would say get someone real behind it than just some computer software, to make it more organic, to give it a flow, to give it some flourishes, some melodies, instead of it just being a heartless machine that it comes across as. It comes across as dull and empty. I'd replace the bloody drummer, because oh my god, the fact that every song, there's 11 tracks, and all 11 tracks on this album has the fucking same drum riff and chorus. It is unbelievably shocking that they allow some sort of drummer in. I could do this. I've only touched the drum kit once, but Jesus Christ, it's not difficult what he's doing. Just dum-tsh, dum-tsh. That's not hard, is it? It really annoyed me watching it, clearly. And then the previous album is the same thing. He's learned nothing. He's not evolved or developed. He's done fuck all. He's just in there just to drop a beat. It's ridiculous. A bloody pop drummer, which is just a drum machine, is more technical than that. It is shocking. It's a metal band. You're supposed to have talent, and you are worse than pop music drummers. Well, technically not, but honestly, it's that bad. As for the bass player was pretty simple himself. He wasn't doing much. The only interesting thing the bass player did was actually using his voice, because he's the backing singer. So not actually the bass stuff. The guitarist again, like with the first track you get into, You Will Breathe Again, the intro he's doing pinched harmonics. That's sort of interesting. But then after that it's all just chords. And then you see it live, he's just stood there like a plank. There was no life to the performance either. The drummer just looked like some old fart that was just off his meds. Well, not off his meds, he just looked doped out. He just sat there bored. The guitarist was so wooden, stood there. He looked dead and absolutely depressed. The only person putting in the energy was the bass player and the bloody singer. It was ridiculous. The other two members just wished they weren't there, it seemed. But anyway, the guitarist just... it comes off in the performance as well. It is so lazy and bland. Like, it's a nice riff, in chord wise, like it has a good tone, like dan 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 dan. It's a good tone, but it's just like when you have something that's simple, but it's basically like, oh, this is a heavy power chord thing. It's interesting for the one time round, but when everything is just a heavy power chord, it gets dull, it's repetitive, like your bloody drummer. You can have a simplistic drum beat, there's nothing wrong with it, and of course not, it's fine if it's put in the right area and if it's needed. But overdoing it constantly, no. You need more flourishes, you need more excitement, and this is the problem. It's lacking excitement, variation. The vocalist, let's just be positive now. The vocalist is the best part. She is amazing. She has a great voice, she has variety, she has amazing aggression, she has some good melody parts. She does actually have a fairly operatic side to her. She doesn't really touch on it on this album unlike the first one, but she still does use it. There's some speedy elements, there's some slower elements, there's some deeper elements, there's some higher elements. She definitely uses a lot of variations. She's the most interesting part when everything else is repetitive and bland, which means everything falls on the lead singer to give the energy and life. It's all her. As well as the bloody computer that's doing the bloody synths, which is ridiculous when you think about it, because it's not the drum nor the guitar. Sometimes it's the guitar, because he does add, as I said, there was pinched harmonics once. There are solos in, I think, every track. Actually, no, I don't think it's every track. I think some tracks he does leave out. But they're so short that it doesn't satisfy me. It's like, well, it's better that it's there than not, but it's like, it's barely there that you don't really notice or take anything out of it or from it. There's nothing to it. It's just empty. So vocally, it's a lot better than her first outing, because Katrina is using a lot of different techniques, a lot of different pitches. She's a lot more improved. There's a lot more life to her. You actually hear excitement from her. It actually sounds like she's enjoying what she's doing. And as for the rest of the band, they just don't seem that interested. The live performance, you could tell none of them were really interested, and none of them were really doing anything. Everything for this album is Katrina. She has a lot of variation, great voice. The guitarist, as I say, it's just basically power chords. There's nothing really to it. His solos, he has talent. The guy does have talent. You can tell it from the shortness seconds of what he gives. So he has talent, but he just really doesn't show it or portray it. Some solos he doesn't bloody bother because he's lazy, and then sometimes they're just so bloody short because he just wants to be finished and done with it. The drummer is the same thing over and over and over again in the verses and the chorus. It's all the exact same drums that he's using, the exact same pattern. It's all exactly the same. The flourishes changed a little, but still he doesn't have talent really. He's really, really bad for a drummer. The bass player, he's not doing anything really that exciting either, so there's nothing really to it there. You get him doing backing vocals on certain songs, so you will hear him throughout the album just giving a bit more of a flavour to it, but again, that just means vocally that's the only excitement there. So what you have is an album which songs have the intro, verse, chorus, verse, solo, and end on chorus. The typical formula, the bland formula, the unimaginative stuff, the kind of pop formula that pop artists will do. Scratch the solo, obviously, because in pop you don't get solos. So you get 3 choruses all exactly the same. You get 2 verses all exactly the same. Sometimes you don't even get a solo to kind of take you out and give you something new. And then as for drums, you don't get anything interesting. Guitars, you don't get anything interesting. So it's all vocals. And as I say, they have a good kind of tone to it, but that is basically just the computer programming that they use to give some kind of backing orchestra, opera things in certain areas, bit of synth, bit of key stuff, and that's the only thing that really kind of fills this album out. You get different change of paces, like you get your melodic songs, you get some kind of slow songs, fast songs. The last track, I'm Your Cancer, definitely has really good energy to it. I like that track in a way because it has a really catchy chorus, but trying to listen to the album, it's boring. There's nothing really wrong about it. Like, there is guitars, there is drums, there is the synths, there's a great vocalist, it does have solos, so there's not necessarily anything outright wrong, besides the drummer being goddamn awful. But there's nothing great about it either, there's nothing good, really. Now, you've got great vocals, you do have solos, but they're so really bad I don't really think I can give them any credit for it. And that's it. So there's not really much there, it's just basically, yeah, it's fine, but nothing I'd ever really listen to, nothing that's really exciting. I've seen reviews for this album, and the reviews are 100 out of 100, or 5s out of 5s, 10s out of 10s, with the critics saying it is so technical, it is so advanced, it is so musical, there is so much variation, there is a lot of talent. I don't know what the hell these people are listening to and what they've done in order to actually become professional critics. There is no variation to this besides different tones and different pacing. That is the only variation, and that does not give you the excuse to say it's varied just because of a different bloody tone. Changing the tone of the amp is not good technical variation. It's a simple tweak of a knob. The guy can tweak his fucking knobs, therefore great guitarist. No! Jesus. The drummer did a different flourish in this one area. It only took about 3 songs in, but here we go. No. The vocalist is great. Yeah, I give you that. It doesn't mean that it's now the greatest album out there. And yeah, it's better than the first album because the first album was extremely samey as other people, and even the album within itself. Yeah, that's right. This is because this is now different and a bit better. Doesn't mean you have to blow smoke up their bloody backside about it. It's not a great album. It's not even really a good album because drumming sucks, the guitars sucks, the song structures suck, the variety kinda sucks, the solos suck, the bassist sucks, the vocalist is good. There's some catchy things, but heck, pop is catchy, but I would never bloody listen to it. I'd rather shoot myself. It's a 4 out of 10. Below average. If it was playing by someone else and someone was listening to it, I wouldn't have a problem. I would enjoy it with them. Heck, if they were jumping around and it was a bit of a fun time and everything, I'd join in myself. If I knew the lyrics and they were singing along, I'd sing along myself. But never ever will I go back to this album on my own. I would never listen to it. There is nothing to it. There's nothing keeping my interest. There is no interest to really begin with. But if it did play, it's catchy enough. It does have a solo. The vocalist is really, really good. That's the best thing about it. If it's in the background somewhere, if it's in passing, if someone else is playing it, you can basically live with it, is what I'm saying. Which is why it's a 4. Below 4, like 3s, 2s, 1s, are basically like I would never want to listen to this. And if someone played it, I'd say shut it the hell off or I'm leaving. So it's not, you know, terrible, but it's not good. It is a step in the right direction from the first album, though. And even though it's a 4, there is potential to this band. Get a better drummer. God, anything would be a better drummer. The drumstick just on his seat will do a better job than he can. The guitarist, he has talent. Let him do something within the actual song, and then solos. Give him time to actually show something. He's a guitarist. Let him be a guitarist, not someone who's a standing mannequin at the live show. And then add some variation to your songs. If you have the guitarist unlocked to the actual song and everything, and is able to do stuff, you'll be able to make musical variations with a better drummer, the guitarist actually being able to actually do something. You would be able to make songs bigger, more musical, have more variation in sounds and techniques and things to go along with the talented singer, Katarina. So they have talent to get up to 7s, maybe even 8s. But so far, this is pretty bad. Just a 4. I heard the one song and I thought this has potential, but then the album is just like, it's just basically the songs with different kind of tempos and you know, effects. That's it, there's nothing to it. And then seeing them live, seriously, they should not have done that. I wouldn't have picked up on that drummer unless I saw it with my own eyes. That live performance seriously showed me how depressed the drummer is and the guitarist. The guitarist was so depressed, so fed up, didn't want to be there. And yeah, it was all chords. I never saw anything worth really looking at the guitarist for. And the drummer was just unbelievably bad. They shouldn't have shown that. So that is basically it for me. 4 out of 10, that is it. A pretty meh album. So that is going to be it from me, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later.